This video is brought to you by Recurrent, an essential EV tool that gives free access to TFL EV viewers in the US. With Recurrent, EV shoppers can check range and battery info on used cars. EV owners can connect to compare their range and battery health to similar vehicles. And EV sellers can use Recurrent to get more money for their sales. With Recurrent, we can find, drive, and sell electric cars positively. Click on the link in the description below to get free access to Recurrent's amazing EV tools.
Hey everybody, super impromptu, but I wanted to bring you a pretty special car that's coming to the US very soon. This is the all-new Kia EV4. This is a big deal because it's an affordable entry-level Kia electric car, and in today's video I'm going to give you a full walk around the EV4 and talk about what makes this thing special. Now, a couple of disclaimers. I'm sorry if the audio is a little rough. I am super jet lagged and left my mics at the hotel, which is just so amateur hour, and I'm sorry, but I couldn't resist the opportunity to show you this cool new car. So we're gonna go flip the camera around, talk about the design, the interior, the specs that we know, and what it could do for the US market. All right, everybody, let's check this thing out. Now, if you're wondering why I'm jet lagged, it's because I'm at the Seoul Mobility Show here in South Korea, and I was actually flown out here by Hyundai to check out the new Ioniq 6 and the new Nexo, and those videos are over at alltfl.com, but I couldn't help but get a tasty first look at this new EV4 because this is a big deal, folks. New affordable electric cars coming to the US. This is a category I feel like more folks need to report on because electric cars are expensive, and this could be a game changer for Kia. We're going to start off with this design. Now, size-wise, competition-wise, this vehicle is looking at vehicles such as the Model 3, which is some stiff, tough competition. But from a design standpoint, I think it really holds up. I love the headlights. So we have these vertical bars that extend down the side of the car, and then we've got these pixels on the inside that are actually the headlight units themselves. We see that, of course, on both sides. And then we've got this lower front splitter, which looks pretty aggressive. And in today's video, we're going to look at the standard EV4 as well as the GT-Line, and we can compare those two side by side. The side profile of this car is really interesting as well. Now, as I understand it, once again, I'm a little fuzzy on the details because I am here in Korea, and you know, some stuff is different for the Korean market than the US market, but as I understand it, here in Korea, they get both the sedan and the hatchback versions, but from what I've read, the US is only getting the sedan model, and it's an interesting design from the side. Let me explain why that is. See, visually it looks like the front wheels are pretty close to the front edge of the car, but the rear wheels are tucked in kind of more toward the middle, so you get a big rear overhang. I'm not sure I love the rear end design. This thing's got a little bit of a booty on it, but it's, once again, I appreciate that Kia is doing something so different, so unique, and so out there. And we can see those crazy tail lights. Once again, that continue that blade motive, and then we've got these little streaks on the inside. And everything's just a little funky on this car. Like on the roof here, above the rear window, we have these little contrasting panels, and you might notice that the rear window stops kind of right about here in front of the trunk lid, but then we get this black panel to give it a visual impact of looking much larger than it is. Pretty interesting. Now let's see if I can figure out live here from Seoul how to pop the trunk. It is in fact a trunk lid. It's not a full lifting hatch, and the opening's a little small. It's a little bit of a disappointment. I wish it would extend a little bit higher up or just have a glass hatch, but we do find our controls here to put down the rear seats, which is pretty cool. And that is such a deep trunk. So we talked about that wheelbase and the proportions kind of messing with you, and the impact of that is the trunk goes really deep into that car. Now, when we look at the wheels, you should be able to get up to 19-inch wheels on this EV4, and then this kind of interesting square motive with these contrasting silver and black portions. And then of course we do also have the hideaway door handles, which can snug up against the side of the car. Charging port looks to be located over here on the front passenger quarter panel. In Korea they do use CCS just like we do in the States, but of course we are transitioning to the J3400 NACS standard. Anyway, folks, from the outside, what do you think of the design? But on the inside, things are equally as interesting. And once again, trims might change to the US market. The look might be a little different, but a lots of kind of contrasting and different colors going on in here. So this car has a dark brown lower and a black upper with a teal center portion and then a mesh headrest. And I know it's not going to be to everybody's taste, but you got to give them credit for trying something a little different. We've got this kind of squircle steering wheel with the flat bottom, with the flat top here. And then we have almost a granite finish over here across this little center panel. Very interesting. It doesn't seem to serve much of a purpose other than maybe a place to put a computer or take notes, but kind of an interesting look because the Qi wireless charger is actually located up here, kind of by your knee. We've got squircle steering wheel two-tone. We also have our drive mode select there, gear select there with our power button, and then dual 12.3-inch screens with a little climate panel over here. You can kind of see how that works. That'll open up a larger panel, but you've got constant shortcuts here if you want to change like airflow and direction. I do believe that this setup is pretty much the same we see in other Kia and Hyundai products with the panels and the tiles. Physical air vents, we do have shortcuts here. We also have a proper volume knob and proper climate panel. And then I like their emphasis here on the ambient lighting. Really a nice interior. And we see once again that kind of marbly finish over across the door panel. Heated seats, ventilated seats. So this car is quite well equipped. And then on the pedals, you can see the plus and the minus, which is a nice little look. But I think that they've done a good job of this interior. I could use a few more buttons. So for example, those little shortcut controls there underneath the screen, those are more haptic controls than actual physical buttons, which is a little bit of a miss in my mind. I would love to see just a chunk, a little clunk when you go ahead and push those buttons. But apart from that, we do have physical controls here in the steering wheel, drive mode, toggle there, and then of course adaptive cruise and all that on the left side of the steering wheel. Small sunroof. I gotta say though, these seats are really working for me. Very comfortable, but I do have a bit of a problem here. Let me cut and show you the problem. I'm not a super tall dude. I'm 6 feet tall, and the headroom is sort of limited here. My head is just barely scraping on that headliner there. It's not unlivable, but I wish they would have given it maybe an inch or two extra headroom because it adds to the visual appeal, folks, having that kind of low squat roof, but it definitely minimizes comfort in here for taller passengers. Popping open the back seat, let's see what we're working with here. First of all, flat floor, always good to see on a fully electric vehicle. Legroom is excellent, and once again, folks, with the headroom, this is pretty poor headroom. There's no way around that. It's not very good headroom in the back. So fine for kids, but if you're of adult size and you're over maybe 5'10", you're going to be a little uncomfy in the back seat, but nice and reclined. It is 3 abreast seating back here. Once again, with the funky materials and colors. We do have an armrest with cup holders back here. We also have integrated heated rear seats, so fairly nicely equipped. Now, when we talk about specs regarding the EV4, this is based on the eGMP architecture. It is possible to get a couple different battery configurations. There's one that's under 60 kilowatt hours, and then you do have the big 80 kilowatt hour pack. And at least not on EPA range, but on WLTP range, they're predicting between 225 and 330 miles of range. So once again, maybe not Model 3 killing territory, but on par. But the problem is the motor potential here. They're saying 150 kilowatt motor in the front only, at least from the release I've seen. So that's 201 horsepower to the front wheels. Now, I could be totally off my mark here. This could be a lot more affordable than a Model 3 because EV6 comes in, about 40 starting and then goes into the 50s. So maybe this is going to be a lot cheaper, which would make this more appealing than a Model 3, but at least with that base horsepower number, it's not super competitive with what Tesla's doing. Now for something a little hotter, that's the EV4 GT-Line seen in this matte blue. So the GT-Line is going to zhuzh things up a little bit with some of the angles and some of the colors and some of the design, and even the wheels are pretty out there, which is pretty cool. And then as we make our way to the rear, you can see more of that blue, and then out back, once again, just a little bit more spicy with some of the rear end treatment there. And then of course we get the GT line badging. Now this of course isn't a full GT like that EV6 over here. It's just a GT line, which is like their light appearance group. to kind of give you the idea of what performance could be like, but it's a good looking car and a little spicier than the standard EV4. Well, there we have it, folks. Our first look at the Kia EV4. Now, I think there's some good stuff. The interior surprised me. It was quite nice. It was also a little small. Exterior design, pretty cool. What is going to come down to me, pricing, right? If this is a $34,000 car and it undercuts Tesla by a lot, it's pretty awesome. If it's a $45,000 to $50,000 car, it's going to be a tougher sell. Regardless, though, you guys got to leave me your comments in the comments section below what you think of the new Kia EV4. Is this going to be a hot seller in the US when it shows up, hopefully by the end of 2025? Well, drop me a comment in the section below. And as always, this has been Tommy with alltfl.com. Head over to alltfl.com for more EV reviews.